Hello, lovelies, and welcome to the Stream AuthorTube Writers Conference 2022. And today we are going to be watching a short video on the Writing the Tree nonlinear story writing method. And I am very, very happy to see everyone here. So many people in the chat. Oh, I feel so loved. To everyone. And of course, gotta have your cuppa. So I'm going to start the video. I will be hanging in the chat to answer any questions you have. There is a Google link in both the video description and that has been run through the chat twice to a Google Docs that is an outline for this video. And let's begin. Hello, lovelies, and welcome to the AuthorTube Writers Conference presentation for Writing the Tree. So I was asked to do this presentation on a nonlinear writing style. This is the style that I learned way back in the 90s when I was in college. So I'm going to start off right immediately at the very beginning because we only have about 15 minutes to talk about this. Then we're going to do about a 5-minute question and answer period. The process of creating a nonlinear zero draft is actually very grueling, but it works out to a system to create a short story draft in about 14 days if you can write like 2K per day. And the process can also be stretched out into multiple days or even weeks to get you through that first draft system. By no means feel no pressure to try to get a story out in 2 weeks. How you start is, the first is you're going to start with your seed, and that seed is a single scene, large or small. It's not going to be the first scene in the book, but it's going to be somewhere early beginning or maybe near the end where all or one of your characters kind of moves in this scene. You're going to have this pivot scene that you're going to start with, not the beginning. We are not starting at scene 1, chapter 1. This is probably going to be later, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 15. Somewhere else in the book, not the beginning. And when you're in this scene, I want you to think about it like you're on a blind date. Look at every aspect that you imagine that this character in their environment, everything they have as you meet them for the first time, because you are meeting them even though you're an author. So this is your blind date with your character. So you have your scene seed. So we're going to start with day 1. Day 1 is where you start with your branches. You meet your characters, your protagonist, your antagonist, the friends and shills, the love interest, the random side characters. To aid this, I have a 30 questions every writer should ask their character videos, and a link to the Google Docs in another video that I did. I hope this helps you developing your characters. But for the first day, don't worry about writing any more scenes or anything like that. Just work on who you met in this first scene and who they know in their world. Day 2 is when you start to build your roots. Your roots are your world build. They are a rough sketch of your world. Set some rules. Pick your genre. Try to figure out, are you doing a hard system? Are you doing a soft system? Where are you going to fall in this world? World building is like planting a garden and knowing you will harvest it later. The freedom of this step is you can always add things later and then go back and build them into your world, because this is a zero draft. One of the pieces of advice that I give you right here is, as you're writing your world, avoid the shiny trope syndrome. I know that it is so tempting, like when you're reading and working on a story, there's, oh, this idea is cool, and that idea is cool. And yeah, go ahead and make notes for these. But you need to also realize that just because something is cool in another story, your story doesn't need it. Your story needs its own life. Because if you just keep adding and adding and adding things into your world build and don't actually say, okay, this is a believable world that's not going to pull my readers out because it's too fantastic. If you do that, then you end up with an MC that is a werewolf, vampire, witch, angel, unicorn hybrid with super awesome OP abilities that basically warps their own reality, become a goddess, but she can't deal with the love life she has. Yeah, don't write that story. You laugh, but I've read this book. The next step is day 3 through 10. On day 3 through 10, this is where we're making our leaves. Imagine you're walking through a forest and there's all these different beautiful colored leaves all over the ground, just everywhere. This is what you're doing. You are going to just write whatever scenes come to your head, anything that you imagine when you were world building, when you were character building, fighting scenes, action scenes, interaction scenes, date scenes, romance scenes, quiet moment scenes. And don't worry about them being in order. Right now, you're just a hummingbird or a butterfly or a bee in the idea meadow. Everything that you can think of that your character might do or think or say, or the interactions that they might have, just write it down. Just write everything down that you can. It doesn't matter whether you're going to use them or not. That's what orphan scene folders are for. Just write the scene down to get it out, because the next step after the days 3 through 10 is when you're going to start building your tree. So day 11 through 14 is when you're going to take these scenes. And in my college class, we wrote them out on loose leaf paper or typed them into literally a word processor. And then we just laid these out in a huge auditorium. And we moved them around and wrote notes on them in colored pen. What we want here and need a scene here and all this thing. In the age of digital, this is where you're creating your story order and your layout. I'm going to give you this very, very significant piece of advice. Create a new copy, completely separate, retitled from your original scene copy. Just leave all your scenes out of order in that original copy. And this is what you're going to create your trunk. When you move something, change the ink color of the things you move. If you're going to delete something, leave it in that draft, but change the ink color and put the strike through on it. If you need to write something new, use a 3rd or 4th or 5th ink color to indicate this scene needs to be here. That way, when you're scanning through the draft after you've moved everything around on day 11, 12, 13, and 14, you will know, okay, this came from ahead of here, this came from behind here, this came from, you'll know where they came from. And then you can I need to add this here, I need to add that there. And you can literally see the rainbow font of your brain's idea unicorn onto the page. Another thing that you need to do when you're building the tree is you're going to have to start weaving your scenes together, because a lot of times the scenes don't match and stuff. And that brings us up to day 15 and 16. On day 15 and 16, this is our time to revise. This is our time to really, really look at what we've, to go through another time and look at what you've put down. Look at what you've written. When you're hunting down the continuity errors and the plot holes and the merges to create, and you're creating a plot outline while you're doing this. So while you're doing this part, you're actually going to start writing down your plot outline. But you have at this step, because it is a zero draft and because you have written the whole thing nonlinear, you have an incredible amount of freedom, because you're not bound by any rules at this time. You're not constricted to, well, I have this here and this here and this here. No, you can slide things wherever you want, because you are actually writing your plot to fit your scenes. And you can graft the scenes, whether you're following a 3-beat plot or a 5-beat plot or a 15-beat plot, if you've got like some massive fantasy novel. You can still hit all of those things with your scenes that you've already created for your leaves, because the basis of your tree is there. Now you're just twisting them together to build that trunk and to separate out your branches. And the best way to think about the branches is the branches are each character. So this branch is character MC Lily. And character MC Lily has 3 sisters, and her sisters each have a branch. And she's got this annoying troll that keeps giving them problems, and he has his branch. But the branches, like in a real tree, the branches don't just grow up and never touch each other. The branches, when you look up through a tree, and the branches overlap. And so that's what's happening as you're building the stories, is these characters are overlapping. So that once you're finished with your story, you can look up and see the whole tree. The days 15 and 16 also gives you a chance to see what you've missed and to backfill into plot holes and to backfill things that you've added in your world building as you're writing, because you can't just have something appear at the end of the book that was not in any of the other books. So you have the ability to go back and to weave things back through, plots and subplots. All that will come when you're working on your next version of the draft. This is just your 0 draft, so it doesn't have to be accurate or perfect. There is so much that can be fixed. And yes, you might have to bring in a backhoe to fill in the places where your characters might lack depth, or they might have an off-character interaction with another, or there might be a plot hole that makes the Grand Canyon look like a crack in the pavement. But that's fine, because the way this writing is to just get out that initial burst of creativity so that you can actually go back and build your story, because life is messy and story writing can be messy too. Gardening is messy because you get all the dirt on you, and contrary to the pantser analogy that pantser writers are gardeners and just throw their seeds out there, that is not true. Gardening takes a lot of planning. And even if you have to go back later and weed everything and do all the weeding, that's just another form of gardening. So your story, your world, is the way that this works. And so you can create a story just by sitting down and imagining funny scenes, like hysterical cafe scenes. Or I had a scene in the books that I published. The love interest brings her a coffee, and it's because he's seen her drink like a blended frappe, but he didn't know that she doesn't like coffee. She only likes frappes because they're caffeinated ice cream, but she doesn't like coffee. And the daughter that's in the hospital is like, wow, when you and mom were dating, you didn't talk about anything, did you? So, that can be a funny little scene, and you can imagine that scene, and it has no effect on the plot whatsoever, except to say that when these 2 people were dating early on, they didn't really know each other that well. Or you can have the opposite demonstration where somebody intuitively knows, oh, well, this person only eats lemon cookies. They hate chocolate. God forgive them. So whatever you need to do, you can focus and do this. The point of nonlinear story writing is to get out all of these scenes. They don't have to have a purpose when you're getting them out. Just get them out. Get out everything you can imagine. And then you can go back and put them back in order later. And this will help you create a world that not only holds your interest, but will hold your reader's interest. This method, it works for 2 weeks, or it works to stretch it out to 3 months. Do 1 step per week. And for every day, use it as a week. Because in the end, you're going to find out that getting there is no one way to write a story. There is no single method that works for every writer. This method works for me. It works for some of the people who are transitioning from being pantsers to being plantsers, because we can't just make the jump to straight to being a plotter. So being a pantser, being a discovery writer, starting to make that transition to where you're using the discovery writing and the planning and plotting. This is something you can do with nonlinear story writing, because you can get the story out in all of your excited burst without feeling like you're falling behind. I'm Mama Maggie Ward, and let's go have a discussion about that. Can you hear me now? I think you can hear me now. Okay. I have some questions. Start in the chat, and we will do the Q&A. Okay. Don't start again. Don't start again. It's trying to start again. It's supposed to just, oh my gosh. Really? Go back to there where it says Q&A, and then just stop. It's not going to do it. Is it going to stop? It's going to stop. Okay, fine. Q&A time. Okay. I have 3 questions. Let's start with the questions. The first question is from Jenna the Soul Writer. What is your favorite set of rules to write by, and how often does that change, if all? I don't actually have a set of rules that I write by. I tend to follow this method because I'm a very much an inspirational writer. And when I get like onto something, I'm like, ooh, this scene and that scene and boop. And I will write out, like before I even start my plot, I will write out a half a dozen scenes, write up some character notes, and then I will start plotting later, the next step. This tends to be the method I use. Somebody was saying that it sounds like the snowflake method, which is something that I am going to have to look up on. I have read The Plot Garden, and I did like that method. It was a little more plotter centric than I liked, but I can understand it because, as Jenna said earlier, I am a farm mom. I do organize my gardens heavily. And so that is just something that I do and where I go with that. So I do like to follow, once I set my rules for my world though, that is something that I will stick to. What the example I gave earlier about the werewolf, vampire, witch, angel, unicorn, demigoddess, that was an actual character that I read in a book. And that's one of the reasons I'm so strict about, once you build your world, you can bend the rules a little bit, but don't break the rules. And the other thing that I do is when I'm writing, I have a set writing time. I will go back and do a little bit of editing in the evening because the brain damage, but I do not let myself edit while I write. Do not go down the edit. I am a very strict believer that you do not go down the editing rabbit hole while you are actually creating the story, because that's how you end up with the Marvel multiverse. Rachel has the next question. This would work for any length, wouldn't it? Yes, it does. It does work for any length of story. It also works for any length of time. You do not have to do this in days. This works very, very well for weeks. I mean, I have a bit of OCD. Yeah, like my own tractor full. So when I get started on writing something, I am like driven to finish it, like obsessively, not healthily driven to finish something. I'm just that way for projects. But if you're a turtle writer, if you're a 500 word a day writer, if you're a 500 word a week writer, you can still use this method. The day is just a time marker, and it does not mean a day. It means the length of time you need broken up into equal increments. The next question is from Jenna. Is this your method for the 80K Camp Nanos and every month? Yes, it is. Pretty much, this is the thing that I do almost every month. And for all of my news stories, if you go back into my hashtag Whip Chat videos, you will find 2 videos on writing the tree. And one of them is me discussing this method for about 45 minutes. And the other one is me actually sitting down and working through a book called Cowboy a la carte, which was an idea that I got from one scene. And so, and that's all it takes. This is what I do with it. Oh, real quick. Bye, Catherine. Have a good day at work. And thank you very much, Shannon. I'd love to have the presentation. Let's see, what else do we have? Yes, Esther, do feel free to come back to this. Feel free to check out the other 2 videos and save the Google link. Save the Google link because everything is there. Yes, reminder, please go and fill out the feedback forms for the AWC. Put down the name of the stream that you are watching, any comments, even if you don't want to enter for the prizes. We do appreciate the feedback. All of the feedback for all of the different streams is very, very helpful. We will be having a drawing for that later. So in the break time between, feel free to go back and fill out those feedback forms. And even if you miss doing it today, please go back later and fill them out. We will take any feedback we can get for this to make next year's better. Jenna, thank you for the presentation. Tucking over to the next. Okay. See you, Jenna. Jenna and Shannon are literally running themselves ragged along with the mod squad. We are just hopping from stream to stream, trying to get everybody. Fortunately, I think we've only had 1 stream that got botted and 2 streams that got comment botted after the streams went live. So I know that me and Eva have gone back and like pulled comments that were modded on channels, that we pulled comments that were posted that were just spam comments. So all of this, Andrea is being very lovely and giving us the link. This is session number 12. I'm Mama Maggie Ward. My channel is Penumbra Mind Writing. This is the Writing the Tree method. And so please go and fill out the feedback form. Even if you don't want the prizes, please go and fill it because we need all of the feedback we can get so that we can make next year's presentation as good as we can make it. And hello, Sako. Hello, says hello to Nia. We are all here. Is there anyone else that has any questions about this method? I can see that there have been several people in the Google Doc. Looking at the Google Doc, I will put that link in here now for the Writing the Tree method, and I will leave that document up for anyone who wants to see it. I'm also going to hop over and I'm going to share another document with you from another video that I did. One of the previous videos I did for my hashtag Whip Chat series was 30 questions. Every author, every writer should ask their, let's see, copy the link. Yes, please. Every writer should ask their characters. And I found this 30 question method that I use. Some of the questions are this or that question. Some of the questions are on a sliding scale. So where do they fall on this spectrum of things? What would they choose? It is very helpful to get these questions done because then you can like really get to know your character. And that actually really helps with your story. Jillian St. Kervan, from New Zealand. She had a stream yesterday where she talked about character-driven stories. And that was a very good stream. I love character-driven stories. So check out her stream on the replay if you didn't get to see it yesterday. Writer should ask their characters. Okay, if I could type today, that would be awesome. I have not had enough coffee. I was up very late. My daughter was going out. Oh, thank you very much, Sako. I tried. This is the link for the 30 questions every writer should ask their character document. That is it's a really good resource when you're just trying to like flesh out a character like in one day. And some of the questions, they seem silly, like what's their most favorite food and what's their most hated food. But when you really think about it, those are the things that real people have. And like there's one like their favorite sport and their most hated sport. That will start a war. If you are in a place and you disparage someone's sport, the war is coming. All right, we are at almost 28 minutes on the presentation. There is another presentations that are already starting. I have gone over by 7 minutes. My apologies to everyone. So if you will please follow the playlist link, we will get on to the next session. And remember to go back and watch Natalie Locke was streaming at the same time I was streaming for this session with her flash fiction. And if you don't know Natalie, she and Chandra Author do Flash Fiction Live every Saturday morning on one of the other channel. And it is a great exercise for getting your writing and creative juices going and learning how to write fast flash fiction. Sako Toomey's stream is coming up at 11:40 Eastern Time. So be sure you catch Sako's stream. And I am Mama Maggie Ward. Be blessed and have a very lovely day.